Joe the Fan here with Just Win Bets, baby. With an absent Shane O'Mac. Shane O'Mac is a little under the weather, so I'm just going to go slow with our guest, which we'll introduce in just a minute. Just a little bit of an update. We've got a lot of things going here in the studio. We've got WNBA with the Queen of Baskets. She's got 6 games that she's got going on here. She's got a lot of prop bets, a lot of games that she likes. Check out our X page. Don't forget to give us a follow on that, especially on YouTube. We appreciate everything that the followers have done and following us, etc. We appreciate the subs. We love it. We've got the hot man right now, Adam, Ace of Diamonds. He is on fire. I mean, with the college baseball, holy cow, he's hitting almost 80%. So you definitely want to give him a follow. We have UFL later, which we'll have on Thursday. We have, of course, my soccer picks, which is from the World Cup, the Club World Cup, and of course the Gold Cup, which is going to be playing later this evening. We have, of course, Shane O'Mac's picks, which we already posted on X with his Stanley Cup pick for this evening. Hopefully that hits with the Panthers repeating and goes 4-2. We've got a plus 480 perfect ticket going on there for a perfect exact score series on that. We've got now MLB baseball. We've got a couple games that we're going to be showing. That is now on our X, and our main man, Adam, the Ace of Diamonds, has decided to do that. So a lot's going on later this week, or excuse me, later this month will be Wimbledon. So we'll get, of course, Ayo Johnny on that. And of course, our website, which has all of our merch, etc. So we're going to be doing a lot of news that's going to be coming out in the very near future. They're finishing up on it. I know that they have a couple new stuff that they want to display on the website. But what we did finish up on is a nice plus 158 courtesy of Caesars Palace Sportsbook. I, of course, am talking about the UFL final between the Michigan Panthers and your new defending UFL champions, no other than the DC Defenders. I'm here with no other than the UFL GOAT. GOAT, you called it, my friend. And what a huge victory by 24 points. 58-34, I believe, was the final.
Yeah, the over definitely hit. I saw the line even moved up to about 83.5, I think, at one point, and that hit as well on the over. That was a lot more scoring than even I expected. I thought we'd get some defensive stops in there, but from the opening 3 drives, 3 touchdowns in a row, I think DC scored on every single drive. They had 0 punts the whole game. Teamu was just on fire. Just a ton of scoring all around.
Showing a clinic, as the offensive coordinator for the DC Defenders stated earlier in his post game. You're correct. It hit the overhit. It was, I believe, at 50.5. That hit right by halftime, where the Defenders scored 31 points just in the second quarter. So it was pretty much lights out. I know we've been texting back and forth throughout the game. I thought it was a great game, and the audience and the TV ratings, which just came out, was amazing.
Yeah, they did pretty well. They didn't do amazing, but 1.2 peak is still pretty good. Especially they were going up against some stuff that night. There was a lot of rivalry baseball. There was College World Series. A lot of people were burnt out from the Gulf. We had one of the highest viewed Stanley Cup games this season. I think it was the highest viewed Stanley Cup game that they were going head to head with. So I'm very happy with that. I know a lot of people were kind of upset with that rating, but I'll take that all day over $1 million. And the other number that I wanted to point out was that the average was 965,000 and the peak was 1.2. So they didn't lose any viewers. The people who tuned in stayed watching the game, and I think that's another great sign to look at.
Absolutely. I mean, like I said, it was a great game. It was amazing spring football there. I'm very happy for the Defenders. The Defenders did reach out to me and said that they're sending me some swag. So I'm looking forward to that and displaying the hat, especially. I thought it was a very nice hat with the white, had the little Defenders logo on the side. So I think Shano and I are getting a couple of those hats that's going to be sent to us. So we appreciate it, everybody at the DC Defenders, who is one of our local. It's our local team, which was covered by a man, which I wanted to start off with. I think this guy is one of the best play-by-play commentators out there. I'm not, throughout the UFL season, we had the Kurt Menefee. He does a great, amazing job. But I'm talking about Joe Tessitore, who pretty much used what you said. Could you explain to the audience what you said, where you said, hey, where – yeah, go ahead. I'll let you have the floor.
Well, I said, well, first of all, let's start off with DC came in with a chip on their shoulder. Jordan Te'amu and all his teammates thought that he should have been the UFL MVP this season. And they gave it to a guy who played 7 games. Now, he played out of his mind. But Jordan Te'amu, even in my opinion, I think is the league MVP. But you don't need the league MVP when you're the face of the league. You're the franchise player in the league. And if he comes back next year, he's a notable star in the league. I actually hope he goes to the NFL. I'd love to see him get a backup job somewhere and get an opportunity. But, Jordan Te'amu, the stock is way up on that guy. If he doesn't find a home in the NFL, he surely has a spot in the UFL among the fans, especially there in DC.
No, nothing to take away from Perkins himself, who did win the MVP for the league this year, but it seemed very early in the game where they're still running that RPO, that triple options offense, and it seemed like at first the defenders could not even stop them. But then they settled down towards the second quarter and so on, and that's where they kind of tightened the bolts with the Greg Williams' son, he took over his father's job as the defensive coordinator. What were your thoughts here when you saw Perkins just pretty much walk down the field the first couple drives?
Yeah, it was a back and forth game, and it was pretty much who's going to stop who first is what it came down to. And we saw Perkins the pressure started getting to him a little bit. They got a couple sacks on third down. They had to punt a couple times. And DC, like we said, they punted 0 times. They scored every single time down the field. That is phenomenal.
No question about it. Not only is it phenomenal, but there was also field position. I mean, there was a couple times where Michigan had it inside their 10, either by penalty or what have you. But it's difficult to get out of there. But there's a lot of amazing drives. I mean, amazing drives, amazing calls by the defenders, and you saw how they scored rapidly.
Yeah. Even at the end of the first half there, whenever Malik Turner, I think his name is, he caught that pass and he ran 80 yards. It looked like they were going to stop him at the 15-yard line. He just kept breaking tackles and fought his way into the end zone. You could not be bored watching this game. That is one thing.
What do you think went wrong for the Panthers? They were coming in as the favorite at -3.5. And we got, I'm sorry, was it -3 or -1.5? Excuse me. It was at -1.5. I apologize. And that's where Shano and we had a +142 at DraftKings and then +158. I saw that Caesars. I put a little pizza on that, as you know, from our previous video. What do you think went wrong with the Panthers?
Well, their defense really didn't show up. I don't know if that was a little bit of Chase Garber syndrome, trying not to get hurt in the final game. But I think I will give a ton of credit to the DC offensive coordinator in that game. His game plan was just amazing. I said it going into the game. They're the most organized offense in the UFL. We're looking at like a true pro-style offense there. Just the way getting the ball to Roland and then using Roland as a distraction. And they have 3 wide receivers that I think could be in NFL camp this season too. Just a completely loaded roster.
It seemed it was a clinic by the DC defenders. I mean, I saw where there was 8, 9 in the box, pretty much, right? And or 8, definitely 8 in the box. And they're doing that quick screen to the wide receiver. And they're just getting yards and yards and yards. They changed it up a bit. They had a QB run here and there, or a QB draw. They had a couple of running game. The running game was starting to pick up as well. So I noticed, especially in the second half, that Michigan was starting to get tired.
Yeah. And one of the comment one of the comments that Fred Keist, the offensive coordinator for DC, said, "I don't care if my guys get tired. We're still going to run the hurry up offense. We're still going to bring the pace." So I think one team was prepared for that, and the other team just didn't show up ready to win a championship. But I'd give a lot more credit to DC just coming in with a chip on their shoulder and ready for business than I would say that Michigan was unprepared. I think the DC, it was just their night, and there was not much that was going to change that, the way they were playing on offense.
I have to agree with you on that one. I mean, it just seems like DC was completely prepared for whatever Michigan was going to do. Very happy with that organization. Now, question number one, do we take the tag off for the head coach?
What do you mean by that? You mean, is he coming back?
Well, is he coming back? But now he was the interim. As you know, he was the interim of the DC Defenders, and now do we take that tag off?
Yeah, no, sorry, I got thrown off because that's their catchphrase is take the tag off.
Right.
That's what they were saying. Take the tag off. I don't know exactly what that even meant. Maybe something about not playing soft, take the tag off, actually wear the clothing. That was maybe my take from it. But yeah, really interesting. Yeah, I'd say 100% they'd love to have him back, and he has a decision to make because the rest of the staff is joining Reggie Barlow, Tennessee State. So it's going to be interesting to see what decision he makes and what the pay difference is. I'm not sure. I don't even know how much UFL head coaches make, but he has an opportunity if he wants to branch away from Barlow that he can go back to DC next year, put up another great season, and then maybe he'll be in Barlow's situation where he's getting a college head coaching job himself. So I wouldn't count it out. But there is a lot of questions with this DC team, with how talented they are. They could lose a lot of guys to the NFL, and they could lose their whole coaching staff as well. So it'll be something interesting to watch this offseason.
It's very similar to what they had with the Birmingham Stallions in the past. They were champions for a very long time. And throughout the league, they're just NFL teams are just looking at like a particular scout and just say, hey, bring them into camp, the training camp. Who knows? Maybe you'll land a roster spot. Maybe you'll land maybe part of the practice squad. You never know. Hey, money is money. Business is business. That being said, what do we've already heard a few guys, including one of my personal favorite, the thicker kicker, okay, is now signing with the National Football League. What are your thoughts on some of the guys that are now going from San Antonio to now to an NFL squad as a tryout or just at least an invitation to camp?
Yeah, well, Harrison Mevis going to the Jets is a big deal because that's now 3 years in a row that a UFL kicker has gone to the NFL, and early reports are saying that he got a guaranteed multi-year contract. So that would be following up Brandon Aubrey's big money deal with Dallas and Jake Bates' multi-year deal with Detroit. So now we have 3 years in a row where we're pumping out kickers who are making real money. And as far as the other guys, even if you don't make the team, think you're making like $60K a year in the UFL. If you go to a team's camp, even if you don't make the team, you're making like another $60K. So now you've just doubled your money. You made $120K playing football. It's not a joke. Like, you can make a good bit of money playing in the UFL.
Yeah, no question about it. I'm very happy for the athletes that use not only build that experience. I mean, you're going into an NFL camp. You use the tools that you've learned from UFL and bringing that to the NFL camp. And you said before there, Goat, where they have actually caught on into a part of a team. In this case, the thicker kicker, which reminds me, not only that is that a great name, but he reminds me of a former Raider by the name of Janikowski, Sebastian Janikowski.
Absolutely. That was the first person I thought of whenever I heard he was going to the NFL. I'm like, well, the Raiders would be pretty cool. But you know what? The Jets, they could probably use some help as well.
Absolutely. I mean, that guy was a mule. I mean, he went in the first round when the Raiders back in the day, and to me, he should be first ballot Hall of Famer, but we'll see what happens with Janikowski. But back into the UFL, you mentioned this, of course, before of now that you've heard the ratings, you've seen where it's starting to build. It's been now the next version as Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, and Ms. Garcia is now, this is their, I believe, their third year taking this. There's talks about an expansion. You've mentioned some cities, but I've got a lot of emails and a lot of shout outs saying, hey, what about a team in Seattle, or better yet, the Outlaws?
There's a ton of options. People want to talk about interest in this league. Well, if you look at the expansion talk, there is a ton of cities that want a team or want a team back. And you can check out my Twitter at ProCatchYT. I have a recent post on it. Over 100 comments of people interested in their city. So if you want to go vote for yourself, check it out on the UFL Goats page.
Absolutely, absolutely. Please go check that out. We're here live. We're here with the GOAT, the UFL GOAT, and wanted to ask you a little bit more on. So they've researched this, where Tulsa has a huge, apparently they have a huge fan base. Again, another one, Seattle. You had mentioned their GOAT, where we're talking somewhere in Canton, in Ohio. That would be a great place to have a UFL team. What about bringing back maybe the Pittsburgh Maulers?
We'll see about that. Honestly, even as a huge Maulers fan myself, I think if you put a team in Canton, give them the Ohio tag, you know. The attendance wasn't great whenever it's 3 hours away. I'd travel 3 hours to see like an away team play just as well. I don't think we'll be seeing the Maulers back, unfortunately. Like I said, there's a long list of teams because there's no one that's obvious. The most obvious team might be the most unlikely. When we're talking about Seattle, they're really expensive to go there. There's so many teams that you could call obvious. We got the Oklahoma Outlaws. We got the New Jersey Generals, the Philadelphia Stars. There's, Ohio. There's Minnesota, Milwaukee. There is just Vegas could bring a team back and play an Allegiant this time instead of in Cashman's Field. What a disaster that was. But yeah, there's a ton of markets, and we didn't even get into LA yet with The Rock, his presence and what he could do promoting it there. There Raleigh, I see a lot. Raleigh, Carolina, Richmond, Virginia. There's so many cities that could use a pro team, and so many cities that used to have a USFL or XFL team. Didn't even mention Orlando yet, or Tampa Bay Bandits have a big following. Tampa Bay lost two teams. They lost the XFL Vipers and they lost the Tampa USFL Bandits. So there's a lot of cities that they can expand to. I don't know the logistics of it, how much it's going to cost to expand into these markets, but there's definitely a lot of interest. And the other thing is that this is why we might not be optimistic about the expansion. Now, this might not affect anything, but we have pretty much confirmation that it's going to be a 10-game season next year with no wild card again.
Interesting. Okay.
Now, that doesn't necessarily mean no expansion. That could just mean you're not playing two of the teams, or you're playing some of the teams less. As far as the wild card, I don't think we'll ever get a wild card game in the UFL, and here's why. Because scheduling these stadiums, they have to put a down payment down on all of the stadiums, and they just don't have the money to be paying, $50,000, $100,000 for a game they might not play, in one of these stadiums. And that was one of the issues. In DC, they weren't going to get anyway this year because of the women's soccer team coming through. There's always going to be that's why I would say avoid the MLS stadiums, because they prioritize the soccer. They're not prioritizing. I think it's awesome, but you run into a lot of issues with that. And Michigan, I don't know what was going on up there, but that's another one. While we're on the subject, UFL Championship next year, they got to put it in DC. They got to work it out. Pay the down payment. We got to have the championship in DC, because that's one, even if DC is not in it, I think they'd show up. Where lot less salty than the Battlehawks fans.
You know, if it's in DC, I'll say this, my friend, and I'll speak for Shano. I never speak for Shano, but he mentioned that he would go. I'll go. You make the date, and I won't be late. Let's just say that.
100%. I would not miss a championship in DC. Actually, any of the three that I would say right now, I would go to in a heartbeat. Michigan, Canton, DC. And I think those are probably three of the favorites for it anyway. They cannot go back to St. Louis again 3 years in a row. I mean, looking pretty desperate there if they do that. I just think a championship game in DC would pop off. Beautiful stadium. They could sell it out.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And the fan base in DC is huge. But of course, they have to compete with the MLS, as you stated earlier. But you know what? Going back to your previous comment on expansion teams, if that's possible, I personally wouldn't mind seeing the Generals back. That's one team that I would like to see. I'm not taking anything from the Outlaws or the team that was in Orlando or the team from Seattle. But again, I understand where the traveling comes in. But you have to keep in mind here, Goat. But before, when this whole thing started with the XFL back in the day, where it was Vince McMahon's baby, they didn't really have that television market. They had the NBC. Yeah, that was great. Now the market has changed. You've got Fox Sports. You've got ESPN. It has expanded. If there's one thing you could change, though, in the UFL the way it is, what would you change? I mean, they've come with a lot of innovations, which, let's really be honest, the NFL has stolen in years, since, UFL seems to like to be the people that actually innovate this stuff, and then the NFL takes it. They're like the guinea pigs for the NFL. But what things would you kind of change?
Yeah, and we don't know if there actually are. It kind of does seem like they're working with the NFL. I know they've met with Goodell in the past, and they probably did discuss some of these rules. I think sometimes a rule is put in place to an extreme level in the UFL to force a result. So, for example, the kickoff rule. In the NFL, they've adopted the new XFL kickoff. Whenever that was in XFL, and I believe it still was used in the UFL, you can't kick a touchback or else it's like a 40-yard penalty. And the reason they do that in these spring leagues is because they get the results. They want to see the returns. They don't want to see the touchback. So they penalize. It might not make a ton of sense for the spring league, but the reason they do that is because the NFL wants to use that data. So they don't want, the touchback. They don't want touchbacks. They want the kick returns to see how, so they have more data to process. And the same thing with the extra point. A lot of people really like, why can't you kick a 1 point extra point? Why is that not an option? And first of all, I like that about the UFL. I think that's awesome that there's an extra play, giving the guys an extra snap. That's another play that you can watch instead of, watching an extra point. But that, I think that's another thing that they're looking into for the NFL, is having that 3 point option maybe, and but still being able to kick it. And the other rule I would look at is that 4th and 12, which we saw Bryce Perkins convert. I know he got at least 2 of them. I think he went 2 for 3 on the 4th and 12. I think that'll be added to the NFL at some point, the onside pass. It'll definitely be at least 4th and 15, if not 20. 12 is just way too easy. But once again, they make it 12 because they want to see what happens when you convert it. How often are you driving down the field? Last year, I noticed a lot that it plays a big tool, because once you get that 4th and 12, first of all, I think the clock keeps running. And I think it's just like alive. Well, so defenses have to be ready to go right away. They're like, end of a special teams play, looking at the sidelines and stuff. And it's like, no, the play clock's going, the offense is on the field, get ready. And then you have the defenses are tired, right? So to be in that situation, you just got scored on. So you might have gotten a long grinding drive down the field, get scored on, immediately get back out there for the 4th and 12. They convert that. Then you're out there again. So we did see a lot of points scored from the 4th and 12 in 2024. I noticed a lot. And what they expanded on this year was that in the previous year, you could only do it under 2 minutes. Well, I actually didn't know until the championship game that you can do it the whole fourth quarter. So, in fact, Michigan was not out of that game. If, in theory, they could have kept getting the 4th and 12, make it, take it, scoring. Like, you're really never out of it with that rule set. Since the whole fourth quarter, you can do the 4th and 12. And when you have a quarterback like Bryce Perkins who was getting it, creates a pretty interesting scenario. That would have been incredible had they pulled the comeback from, 35-point comeback or something. And it's possible in the UFL.
Yeah, no question about it. I'll tell you what I'm not a fan of, the reporters. I mean, I understand, hey, look, you're hearing it, and the play clock has gone down. Not the whole time clock, but for the play clock, I can understand that. But these reporters, as a former offensive coordinator, former head coach, what I was coaching for over 20 years now, and now I've recently retired. The thing is, I'm in the zone. I don't have time to hey, coach, what are you calling this play? I'm like, dude, I'm trying to win a game here, my guy. They're being professional. I get that. But listen, I got a call sheet that is huge, and just maybe you're like a Sean Payton or whatever. I'm in the zone, bro. So, ask me that during halftime. I have no problem when there's reporters asking college coaches or NFL coaches or whatever during the halftime. They're coming off the field. Hey, what changes you need to make, et cetera, et cetera. But hey, look, it's 3rd and 15 or 4th and 8, and listen, the season or whatever's on the line, I ain't got time to talk to you, bro.
I agree 100%. And we saw a couple times where offensive coordinators get pretty frustrated with that. They really don't need to ask them that. I think it's cool enough whenever I like that we can hear the play. And I like whenever the person in the booth knows what the play is and can kind of tell the fans. But there's absolutely no reason for them to be putting a microphone in a coach's face while they're trying to coach a game. Like, that's their job right there. I do like when they pull the backup quarterback and they get to break down the plays a little bit. I think that's pretty awesome, because the backup quarterback kind of just hanging out, reviewing the plays anyway. So, but yeah, whenever they're trying to ask the offensive coordinator stuff while he's trying to call a play, I agree. That is ridiculous and unnecessary.
Yeah, not only an offensive coordinator, but defensive coordinator, or even the head coach. I mean, hey, man, we're driving. I got to focus on this. If you want to ask me during the, television break or what have you, I got no problem with that. But, that just drives me batty. Now, the other thing, I do agree with you with the backup quarterback where, the reporters talking, hey, what play do you think this is going to be? Hey, what should we look for? Hey, there's a dig under the middle or track underneath. I get all of that. But, maybe, show the game. Show the game and have like him on the bottom left corner or whatever, that's the way I see it. But, got to show the product on the field.
Well, they're trying all sorts of stuff, and some of it's going to work, some of it's not. The drone is hit or miss. Sometimes the drone, you get some good shots. Sometimes it's just this nuisance buzzing around the field. But yeah, they're trying all sorts of stuff, seeing what sticks. I think we'll see some of that stuff change coming up with some of these other seasons here.
Yeah, absolutely. Now Vegas has not released any futures for next year because there has been talks, as you know, that they're probably going to expand. One of them being in Ohio, in Columbus, Ohio, actually, and one being mostly in Raleigh, North Carolina. That's something that you mentioned in a previous video as well. That's the reason why they're not doing any futures, but and there's no odds for it yet. But that being said, do you feel that the Defenders can repeat, or is that too early to call?
Well, like I said, I think probably the main reason they're not doing any futures is these rosters change very vastly from year to year. Yeah, the Defenders could have a whole new coaching staff and a whole new offense depending on how many colleges and NFL teams reach out to some of these guys. But yeah, if everyone comes back, yeah, I think DC might be the new dynasty. I said it going into the game. They're one for 2 in the championship in 3 years. So, there'd be a high odds of them getting back into the championship. If you want to play the odds, Birmingham versus DC next year would probably be a good one to look at.
That's going to be a nice one. That would be a nice game. But you heard it here, folks. If everything stays the same, obviously there's a lot of factors that play in. A lot of areas, there's a lot of changes. I mean, some guys are going into the NFL or they're doing other things. But that would be amazing, Birmingham versus DC Defenders. You had another thought there, Goat.
Yeah. So stuff changes all the time. We're not sure exactly. But according to James Larson, who some might call the GOAT, I think he's a nice guy. But he's saying that the original CBA, after 2 years, you were eligible to be a free agent in the UFL. And you could go to whatever team you want. So whenever you get drafted, your team has your rights for 2 seasons. And we could see our first free agency period, because remember, the UFL has only been around for 2 years. Before that, it was XFL and stuff. So this CBA,
Sure.
This could be our first offseason with UFL free agency. And Jordan Te'amu is the top free agent on the block. Imagine if St. Louis, who needs a quarterback, goes out and gets him back from DC. Imagine that storyline.
Not only that, but also the Arlington Renegades. That could be another spot for him, in my opinion. But here's my question: is there's no trades that happened in the UFL as of yet? Am I correct?
No, there is trades. Now, what I would like to see is a trade deadline with
correct. That's what I meant. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. We have had some trades. They're rare because you don't have a ton of assets. But we're seeing that this college draft, which I believe is already early next month. It's shortly after the season. I don't know the exact date, but they have the players that are left over from the NFL draft. We have our draft, and a lot of the names might not necessarily be significant for the most part. But whenever you look back at the draft from the year before, you're like, oh, really? That's where that guy came from, or this guy or that guy. It's actually pretty interesting. I'd have to look into it, but whenever I was about a month ago looking into the draft, there was actually some players that played an impact. And the other thing to keep in mind is a lot of these guys, their first preference isn't to play in this league. So you could get drafted and then take a whole year off. And then some of these draft picks that we're seeing next month might not play until 2027, whenever they've kind of realized, hey, I need to get back on the field to boost my credentials for the NFL.
Yeah, absolutely. I have seen that before. But it's no different from, hey, look, everybody, when you come out of high school, you want to play for Alabama, you want to play for Clemson, you want to play for Tennessee, whatever, these big, huge schools, right? But there's some guys that are playing, JUCO, and then, they're staying for a year or whatever, and then boom, they're coming up. And of course, with the NIL. So, that of course has opened a whole new universe there. The only thing I'm hoping that the UFL doesn't do is what the NFL is doing. We're going overseas too much in the NFL. I have nothing against, if I'm going overseas, yada, 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 but let's look at the big picture here. We're talking about money.
Yeah, well, I don't think we'll see the UFL going overseas anytime soon. But what I will say is they need to play their cards. They need to find their niche, their gimmick. They need to find something for the casuals. And I'd really push that like America type thing. Hey, we only play in America. I don't know. I would try to come up with some other marketing techniques if I were them, because right now they're just selling football. And for a guy like me, that's awesome. You got me. I'm watching. But there's a lot of people that want to see, some type of gimmick out there, whether it's a rap star promoting the league or, the halftime show I thought was like really weak. They could have sold a lot more tickets just based on get a good halftime act. I didn't even know who that guy was. No disrespect to him, but I had no idea who that was. That was playing the halftime show there. There's a lot of marketing stuff that the league really needs to focus on if they want to improve their numbers. Now, a lot of people are down on this season, but this season, I think their goal was just to try to replicate their numbers from 2024. And I think they did a good job with that. Now, it went down like 5% in some categories and stuff. I know TV viewership wasn't awesome, but
Sure.
a lot of that's getting like more organized. Like, reach out to some of these apps, pay some of these apps to like advertise your stuff. Also, like Sports Center and ESPN, they do no help. I hung out and tried to watch Sports Center after the championship. They don't even mention it. They can't even cover it for 2 seconds. Show the highlights a little bit. They don't cover hockey ever, but then all of a sudden, we're gonna cover hockey big time and not even mention the UFL. It's weird how they do it. My theory is that Sports Center is just an infomercial and they get paid millions of dollars by these leagues for time slot. I think that's
No,
I'm
I agree with you. No, I see exactly
for sure with the marketing stuff. But the play on the field and stuff I thought was awesome this year. I mean, it's never gonna be top tier, right? I mean, these are basically third stringers, at best. But I think it's still really high quality football for the most part. Yeah, you're gonna have some games that are some stinkers, and unfortunately, most of those come within the first 2 weeks whenever you get a lot of new fans looking, and it's just they need to expand the preseason, get these guys actually ready for week one because it takes them 2-3 weeks to get ready, and then you've lost a lot of your fans in the process that, for example, sat through, Houston versus Arlington this year. What was it, a 3-6 game? And it was just a mess, it would be good to have at least 2 legit preseason games to get these guys ready for week one so you're not running into that.
Yeah, I agree with you. And that's something that we notice in the NFL as well, even that they've cut down on the preseason. But even when you're week one, the teams just don't look like they're in sync. I mean, you have to have that rhythm. You have to have that, not only the chemistry, but it's just a rhythm thing, in my opinion. But yeah, it's another amazing UFL season. Goat, we appreciate everything that you've done. Thank you very much. I know that we've talked about having you on for other things here. I hate to put you on the spot, but would you like to comment on that?
Hey, I'm open to a lot of stuff. I'm a free agent now too. That the UFL season's over, so we could talk about some of that stuff for sure. I'm happy to help. I enjoy doing this, so yeah, we'll see what's up, and maybe we can even the UFL might have an interesting offseason too. With the expansion and, like I said, free agency, maybe the draft. Like, we might be able to get a whole episode out of some of the stuff that's going on in the offseason here now too.
Absolutely. So, Goat, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure covering this with you. We'll definitely have you on throughout this, not only next season, but anything that comes in between, we'll definitely have you back on to discuss any important news, maybe the expansion, as you say, maybe covering the draft. That's going to be interesting to talk about here on the show. But we appreciate everything. And again, guys, Shane O'Mac is a little under the weather, so I'm just going a little solo here. But just to recap, with our bets that we have here in studio, we've got a lot of the WNBA, we've got their NHL hockey in Game 6, a lot of the soccer that's going on. We've got, and I think that's Scream 1. It's hard for me to see here in the studio. They built this great stuff here with the ticker. So, but they've got the College World Series. We've got some MLB that is actually being displayed on the ticker right behind me. So there's a lot of things that's going on. But before we go, your last thought here, Goat?
Well, in my opinion, it was another great season. I thought the play was really good this year. I'm excited for next year. According to the UFL president, Russ Brandon, he said one question he doesn't want to hear anymore is the league coming back? He said that ship has sailed. The league's definitely coming back. There's a strong confidence within Fox and them. And, some of these people want to give their advice and stuff on it. These guys are big time players. And before you know it, this league's going to be worth $1 billion. And they're not going to be worried about some simpleton's comments on the league, in all reality, So I would say just keep the faith. I think spring's here to stay. I think it's just going to keep building and getting better, especially when we get in some other markets and stuff like that. And I think it's a really good option to watch in the spring. So check me out on ProCatchYT, UFL Goat on Twitter. And really had a great time covering the league with you this year in the playoffs.
And likewise. Thank you very much, Goat. That's it for us tonight. Again, catch his YouTube page and catch us, of course. And don't forget to subscribe, hit that notification button so you don't miss out on anything. We'll have this uploaded. The guys in the studio are going to take care of us. We'll have this uploaded and sent out to you guys as soon as possible. Sorry for the technical difficulties. Shano, I hope you're feeling better. And until next time, we'll catch you later.